So in this segment of NDI November, I wanted to invite one of our system integrators on to talk about some of the experiences he's had with NDI technology and some of the different installs and real interesting projects that Midtown Video has been working on. Hey, Jesse, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jim. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Always a pleasure to have you. We've had you on past episodes of NDI November as well. Those are available to view on our YouTube channel and on the NDINovember.com website. But this year, I wanted to talk to you about some of the installs you've been doing, some of the interesting projects, because I know you guys are doing a lot with NDI technology and really helping a wide range of customers set up their productions for not only the capabilities they need today, but well into the future as well. So, Jesse, why don't we start by introducing yourself and Midtown Video to our audience?
Sure. I'm Jesse Miller with Midtown Video out of Miami, Florida. We are a broadcast and audiovisual integrator. We help our clients use technology with pride and confidence so they know they can rely on it and they can't wait to show it off to their friends.
That's awesome. And you guys are doing a great job of that. So definitely keep up the good work. Jesse, we were just speaking quite a bit to Jeremy at New Tech or VizRT now about House of Worship and how these churches can benefit from NDI technology and how they can incorporate it into their workflows. Now, I know that you guys did quite a lot of work in church environments, especially in that 2020-21 time period, where it really became a necessity for a lot of these houses of worship to do live productions, right?
Absolutely. You know, when everybody had to go from an in-person service to a broadcast service, we used to call the church package 3-pin tilt zoom cameras and a TriCaster.
Yep.
So it allows, it wasn't just that there were fewer worshipers, but there were fewer staff available too. So for a single operator to be on, one switcher and operating the PTZs and, getting it all done over the network, maybe sometimes not even from the church, right? If they had the robotic cameras and the TriCaster there, remote into another PC and use NDI, Studio to remotely operate the whole thing, it was very useful for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I was looking at some of the case studies that you publish on your website, I noticed that there was one with the First United Methodist Church of Coral Gables, where not only did you outfit them with the live production and streaming technology, but you helped them a lot with their audio systems as well, right?
Certainly. Yep. And of course, there's two big shows, right? There's the in-house show where you got to hang line array speakers and mic all the instruments just so and put in First United. Okay, I see what you're talking about there. This was slightly different. The challenge here was to overcome, the disparity between what technology looks like and how beautiful that church was. So you can see those nice column array speakers that we put in there at strategic points to sort of reinforce sound in the space without having to hang a bunch of ugly speakers interfering with the beauty of it. But what I was saying earlier is that there's really two audio shows. When you're talking more about the rock and roll churches, where there's a full band on stage and lighting shows and stuff like this, the in-person worshiper is getting a rock and roll experience, but you've got to have a great mix for the at-home viewer as well. If you're streaming, it's got to be better than being there, right?
Yes,
So
that's right.
yeah, audio can take a lot of focus to get it exactly right.
No, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why I was interested in this case study is because I think it starts telling that story from multiple perspectives. A lot of times churches will start a conversation with an integrator like Midtown Video from an audio design aspect because churches have always wanted to make sure that the sound production quality was there throughout the entire service. But now, when you take a church like this that has a beautiful design and this beautiful old architecture, and now you're trying to integrate modern technology, whether it's from an audio perspective or a video perspective, having that single Cat 6 cable running to a PTZ camera or a speaker has got to open up a lot more possibilities that you didn't have at your disposal in the past.
Absolutely, absolutely. The transition to digital and specifically digital over the network. We're actually working on an organization right now that wanted to make a video wall out of several sort of monitors that they just had available. And what we did was we took 9 Bird Dog plays
Wow.
and took their, program out of their TriCaster, split it up over the network, and reassembled it on. Now they've got a 3x3 video wall where before that that would have taken a lot more investment. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Investment not only in product and equipment and cabling, but also in installation services to get someone in there and just run all of these different cables and wires and testing and making sure everything works together. So, putting these devices and the modern technology on the network is one of those overarching themes that we do talk about this month and
I'll,
is
I'll
something.
share I'll
Yeah, please
share
do.
another really interesting story about a Catholic church that also has a sort of an elementary school in Miami that was an all SDI infrastructure. So in their gymnasium that had a little stage, so it doubled as their sort of auditorium. They had a TriCaster Mini, all SDI, a couple of PTZ cameras in the ceiling to shoot their shows, and a couple of projectors and screens in the room also on SDI in order to display, IMAG to the larger audience. Well, they have, the TriCaster Mini SDI is almost done, right? Everything's moving to NDI now, and they have an NDI in their sanctuary. They like the experience, so they wanted to upgrade their aging SDI and put in a new TriCaster. And they needed our consulting services. They said, what is it going to take, right, to convert from this SDI scenario to the NDI scenario? And we said, it's actually going to be beautiful. It's going to be simple for you. They wanted to leave their existing control room and move it to backstage. And they were worried that they would have to take all these old copper cables and move them or rerun them from one spot to another. And I said, no, man, all we really need are a couple of SDI enabled sparks for where
Right.
the origins of your projector cables go, right? For those are for the output, and the rest of it is all set. Their SDI cameras were already NDI enabled. We left the rest of the rack behind, put a new TC Mini 4K, which is all NDI, in the new control room. And that was it. Connected it to the network. They already had all their sources. And because of the SDI sparks, they had their distribution out points, those 2 projectors. And the relief on their face when they realized how simple it was to leave the point to point and move to the network was, that really strengthened our relationship with that customer. The ease at which they realized it would, when we figured out how to make that move simple on them, they loved it. They loved it.
I'm sure they did. And I'm really glad that you mentioned that as a story that you're telling because while today was focused on House of Worship, you're talking about this Catholic school that was looking at their sports arena, their basketball courts, and the school that's attached to the church, and how all of these different verticals really do have these overlapping needs. So, an integrator like you can go into a church one day, a school the next day, a corporate AV boardroom on day 3, and put it all together. And you're still addressing the same needs and the same wants and the same goals of getting their productions out live, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to segue right now into a job you did with the Adrian Arsht Center because we were talking about these houses of worship that are like these rock star performances and how important the audio is and how they're really staging these elaborate productions. And what better case study to speak to that than a performing arts center, which I think is the ultimate goal of where some of these houses of worship want to get to, right?
Definitely. What's interesting? I would love to have put in the array speaker system for the Adrian Arch Center for the Performing Arts, but as it turns out, the technology that we were called in to provide was to support their corporate meetings.
Okay.
So their challenge was they needed a way to unite board members, remote presenters, and otherwise attendees of their quarterly board meetings in an environment where we're no longer all in the same room. And these guys did an incredible job. Nobody does pre-production like James Thompson, Kat Martinez, and the IT team over at the Adrian R Center for the Performing Arts. The the amount of rehearsal and staging and pre-production they did was fantastic. Again, I did not have the what I would call the sanctuary there. I didn't put in their main performance technology, but their elaborate board meeting technology is as impressive to me. They, as I mentioned, it's hybrid meeting, right? Some of the higher tiered executive officers wouldn't make it to the meetings. All of the people that needed to watch, some of them were in a big ballroom. So there was obviously a giant projector and a screen in there. Some of them were at home, and you could see the round table there.
Yep.
They knew who would be attending in person, and they had their nameplates, and so they were able to pre-record all of the preset PTZ locations. They did have 2 manned cameras, so they could do sort of on-the-fly production, but all of their pre-production, they bottled it up. They wrote macros and put a Stream Deck on the desk so that they could press a button that represented one of the people speaking in the room, and it automatically recalled the PTZ preset, brought up their lower third with the correct name, and then a second later faded that back out. And it was smart enough to know if it was an in-room person that's calling the PTZ preset, if it was a viewer or it was an attendee via Zoom or Skype or whatever, it would cut to the correct desktop brought in over NDI screen capture. Those guys did an amazing job of pre-production, but it required a very elaborate system. And so we were honored when they asked Midtown Video to help them think, plan out, and then implement this system, of which NDI is the backbone. But I want to say one more thing about their Stream Deck, because I know this is just a USB peripheral, but it was so smart. You've used Elgato Stream Deck maybe to
Of course.
control and so they not only assigned a button to every important preset or macro to recall, but on the Stream Deck itself, they used a headshot of the person that it was representing. So I mean, you could bring any volunteer into this scenario and say, okay, when Adrian R speaks, you push the button with her face on it, and the rest is automated, and really fantastic implementation of technology there.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I love about hearing that story is it's not just the production to send the video out to a live stream. It is all of that automation process that helps make that production, quite honestly, a production, as opposed to just a camera in a boardroom. Being able to incorporate that automation and that control capability is another one of those features that NDI technology gives you, incorporating the control, the PoE capability, and the AV over IP all together in applications like this, which is really interesting when you look at all those possibilities. And it would make sense to me that Performing Arts Center would rehearse that several times and get these automations, right?
A lot of blocking, a lot of rehearsal. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then the other case study that I found really interesting is what you did with the Florida International University. And I think this really speaks to kind of the top end of where NDI technology can go, because you really help them prepare for broadcast media.
Absolutely. FIU, we've been consulting with them for years on how to centralize their broadcast facility. I mean, until 2023, they would have to take their TriCaster TC1 rack-mounted unit and their 3-play and drag it from the basketball arena to the baseball stadium when there was a baseball game, and then over to the football stadium when there was a football game, and like lug it around the campus, and it was getting beat up. So thanks to an investment they made with their IT department, they ran 24 strands of fiber optic cable from every venue back to this control room in the basketball arena. Now we've really unleashed something special. So we've rack mounted all of their production gear, their replay system, their TriCaster, a brand new 48 channel audio mixer, and we can move the cameras and the production crew to the venues. So what you're looking at is the control room in the basketball arena. But what
Yep,
it was built for was ESPN Plus Saturday afternoon football broadcasts, you
that's
know?
great.
And so we've got 4 to 6 cameras at the football stadium. Because we're using network links, we're doing some wireless intercom over a network link, which is very cool. But as you know, in a football game, there's the in-house show, which is on the Jumbotron, and then there's the broadcast. And they, an organization like FIU says to themselves, how can we make the most out of this? How can we use the same cameras to generate multiple camera angles so that we can do our 2 shows? And actually, in the case of FIU, it's 3 shows because the official replay is also sharing a certain number of camera angles. So to
Wow.
reduce the amount of investment they need for camera operators, camcorders, whatever it takes to get it done, they needed a way to share, and we helped them do it. Their in-house jumbotron, their in-house video board, is ran by a TriCaster that's owned by the marketing department. The sports broadcast department owns the TC1, and even though they're in different venues, because we've got this fiber optic cable, we're linking up a couple of Netgear's M4250 switches and sharing sources over NDI. So they've got a TC1 4 SDI inputs in the control room, a TC410 plus 4 SDI inputs in the control room at the football stadium for the in-house, and they each get 6 cameras because NDI has expanded their capabilities, and it's awesome to be there on football Saturday and
Oh, I'm sure.
watching the show go live. Yeah,
I'm sure college football on a Saturday afternoon is like nothing else.
that's
But
right.
what I love about this is you're talking about the flexibility that NDI gives you, not only in bringing the different venues across the campus into a central control room, but then from that control room, having access to the media to put out to different locations like the scoreboard, like the ESPN Plus broadcast, even social media or anything
The
else that they need to do, right?
the announcers are in a suite in the football stadium. So we've got Dante announcers consoles and headsets for them. But in addition to just being able to look at the game, they get a program feed, which is just the bird dog attached to the back of a computer monitor. We're feeding that over the network. TriCaster's program output NDI to this little device, and now the announcers have program return video, which is it's critical to have
Yeah.
that level of flexibility. And it's not like we had to spend all day long running SDI cables and planning it out. Anything on the network,
Yep.
any network jack now is it plugs you in. It plugs you into the rest of the facility. It's awesome.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the advantages of working with an integrated like Midtown Video is you and your experience kind of opens those possibilities and the creativity. So a school or a house of worship or a performing arts center may not even know all that is possible in where they can route the video to and how to use it and how to get to these different feeds because in traditional SDI installations you could only do it by running a cable from
Point
point
to
A to
point.
point B.
Sure.
Now you can create this spider web infrastructure and put this stuff all over the place, right?
And it requires a lot of new communication. Like it's no longer just talking to the broadcast guys. We are on the phone with FIU's network, IT department. And in fact, they said, listen, we'll act as your ISP. Like we'll feed you the internet, but you're going to need your own router, you're going to need your own firewall, and we're going to treat you as sort of like a sub network so that, you know, uh, so that the video can remain optimized. I mean, we're,
Yep.
we're talking about NDI like it's ubiquitous, but really you need a 1 gig network. You need to have an understanding of managing your bandwidth. There are tools certainly that make it much easier. Again, I
Yep.
mentioned that M4250 line, but um, as with great power comes great responsibility. As freeing as it
Yes.
is, you've got to the more an integrator, the more a user can invest in, brushing up on their multicast or otherwise just networking, general networking knowledge,
Right.
the better, the further NDI is going to take them.
No, absolutely. And I think the beauty of it is it's a technology that a single person can get started with, you can play with, you can access a network, you can take advantage of some of the capability. Once you start unlocking the spider web, as I referred to it, once you start looking at all of the advanced capability, when you're looking at a school that now spans across several different campuses, when you want to bring, I'm sure the next phone call you'll get from FIU is, how do we incorporate digital signage to get our football games shown all over campus on Saturday afternoon?
Hmm.
These are all different expansions and different things that you can do once you get that AV over IP. It really does give you a lot of flexibility and a lot of different creative tools.
There's one more anecdote I got to share with you about FIU before we go, because with the announcers in there on their Dante intercom consoles, announcers consoles, with them watching, both in real life and on and the program feed on a bird dog, I said, you guys, we really should have a camera in there so that on at halftime we could do a hit, or even pregame. They were recording the announcers announcing the pregame, like, this Saturday matchup is going to face FIU versus Liberty, and it's the 19th, matchup between. Anyway, there's a pregame spiel that they were recording onto an SD card, running back and putting it in, ingesting it to the broadcast. I'm like, listen, you've got the network switch here. Let me get you another bird dog. We'll
There you
stick
go.
it on top of the camera, and we can cut to it live. And that alone was monumental. But when they realized that the bird dog had a tally on it, and the announcers knew, the play-by-play and the color commentator could just see the bird dog light up red, so that they knew that they were on camera, because NDI carries tally, it is a well thought out technology. It
Yep.
really solves the problems that people didn't realize that they were going to come up against. So, uh, I'm a devotee of
Yep.
of the protocol for sure.
Absolutely. And what you just described in the announcers box is something that I think everyone who's a sports fan is used to seeing on Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football. It's part of a broadcast. And I think what you see when you talk about sports production specifically, at every level, even a local high school sport, they want to emulate as much as they can of a broadcast production because that's what they're used to consuming. So the more of these tools you can give a school like FIU, the more excited they are, the more excited their fans are about the program, the more professional that broadcast becomes, for sure. Jesse, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to talking to you every NDI November, and hopefully we'll see you even before next November.
It's my
As always,
pleasure. Thanks for
as,
having me back.
always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. If you have any questions about NDI technology, if you're looking for Midtown Video to talk to them about your next installation, give them a call at 305 669 1117. Go to midtownvideo.com and be sure to tune into all of our episodes. Log into ndinovember.com for our full schedule. Remember, one registration gives you access to all the shows and to lots of great prizes. Jesse, thank you again. Have a great day.
Thanks for having me. Great to see you.